Welcome back to another edition of the Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Inferna. We're at Forts Athletics. We equip coaches and athletes with the tools they seek out in order to achieve their unique and specific goals. We're going to try a new recording setup here. We'll see how this apparatus works, if you will. It is Thursday, April 28th. Shared a video this morning of our continued countdown to our outdoor conference championships. We're about 11 days out. Conference championships are Saturday, Sunday. So a little less, I guess, 10 days. And I got a question the other day, and I didn't have a chance. I really wanted to think through my response. I got a question on Instagram from a thrower who's asking for some advice leading up to their own outdoor conference championships as well. So it sounds like up here in Western New York for conferences like SUNYAC, E8s, things like that, they're all on the same weekend, which is nice. Ours, Alfred State, is the same also, Saturday, Sunday. And asked what they should be focusing on to get prepared or be more prepared for their meet. I wanted to think about it. I wanted to give a better response than maybe something off the cuff, because by less than 2 weeks before competition, there's really not too much that might be gained in the weight room. So hopefully your volumes and your intensities are starting to drop a little bit, starting to peak a little bit more, so you're a little bit more fresh, especially with weight room. But everyone's going to be a little different. But 3 things that I've encouraged my athletes to start focusing on, like really focusing on and emphasizing, is that we have picked 1 or 2 things that we're going to really put our time in over the course of the next few training sessions that we have. Really pick 1 or 2 technical cues, 1 or 2 things that we feel as a team, myself and the individual athlete, that's going to give them the best opportunity to throw well at conference and hopefully extend their season into regionals, right? So we have 1 regional athlete that's qualified. We have a couple more athletes that are right on the cuff of that. So really taking conference into consideration, they each have 6 more throws, those that aren't qualified yet. So picking 1 or 2 things to focus on and to work on in practice is my first piece of advice. Something that you and your coach believe is going to give you the best opportunity to be successful in that particular situation, which is your conference championships. Number 2 is really start thinking about your rest, right? Start thinking about, time management with regard to your practicing. Hopefully your practices are getting a little shorter in length, maybe a little bit more intensity, because we're trying to figure out the best rhythm, what's going to work for us in the circle. Sometimes we get those shots of adrenaline and we get really excited and amped up, and our emotions kind of start going in all these different directions. So really just trying to think about staying as rested as possible. So what I mean by rest is if you're going to try and get as much sleep as you can, right? So I know for our kids, our athletes, we have the last day of classes is Friday the 6th. So for the most part, any projects, any major assignments are going to be in the day before. Now we're going to have finals after the fact for some of our kids, athletes, not everybody. For our graduating seniors, there's really not much left for them to do, especially for our throwers. One already has a job that they're going to be starting in the beginning of June, so there's really not too much stress or anxiety on that front for him. But for others, really trying to figure out your time management and how rest is going to play a role in that. So trying to cram until 3-4 o'clock in the morning every night for a class that you really didn't pay much attention to the whole semester is not going to be the best use of your time, right? So, cramming is important and studying is important, but if you put it off until now, it's going to affect other things besides just your coursework. I'm not saying that academics are not important. They're obviously the most important thing, but we've already had some athletes say that they can't come to practice or they want to blow off conference because of their grades and their coursework, and there's just other things happening there, and that's kind of a pet peeve of mine as a coach when athletes come to you at the end of April, beginning of May, and suggest that they have academic things happening where their grades are pretty good, but to me it just sounds like an excuse to not want to compete anymore. And the last one is recovery. So I kind of started with that a little bit with like weight room stuff, especially like 10 days out before a competition. Like there's going to be like specific exercises, like for us, for our kids, athletes, what we have found for getting ready for bigger discus days, and sometimes hammer, but it depends on the athlete, are low volume, somewhat high intensity upper sessions the day before a competition. So speed bench, maybe with some bands, some boards, not going heavy on weight, but just trying to stay quick and snappy, and taking care of all those other recovery type needs. So if there's something nagging, just continue going to the trainer, continue rolling and ice and sauna and all those things that are at your disposal now, when you are my age, that you have to pay an exorbitant amount of money for later. So those are the best 3 pieces of training suggestions that I'd like to share. Pick 1 or 2 technical cues to start working on and training, right? Really focus in on what's going to give you the best opportunity to throw far when it matters at conference. Rest, right? Figure out some time management with rest. You'll be able to get 7 to 9 hours if you can. Staying up till 3 or 4. Catching up on all the coursework that you put off all semester since January. Spells recipe for disaster, especially with raising anxiety, stress, fear, doubt, which all can trickle into your recovery and how your body and your central nervous system is going to handle those elevated cortisol levels and that stress of not doing work the whole semester. So I hope that's helpful. I'm going to share this in a couple of different mediums here, but I really think that this late in the season, it's really where we're at. There's nothing new that we're working on with our athletes. Everything is basically fine-tuning and trying to get them in the best shape possible to compete well at our conference championships. Thank you very much for watching and listening to this episode of the Forts Athletics Life and Coaching Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Charles Inferna. Have a great day.